Hi, it's me, Egbert, Egburt, the owner of this radio station. I invite everyone to listen, no matter if you're young, old, black, white, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, heck, I even want real estate agents listening to my station. Yes, even Rick and Tracy. You're all welcome. Now, it's back to my Goodwill ambassadors, Brad and John.
Okay, this show is recorded. Actually, it's live right now. We are on the air live between 7 and 8 o'clock, Central Daylight Savings Time, every day, Monday through Friday. And if you're listening to this on the podcast or on the YouTube channel, this show was recorded on September 10th. So the debate has not happened. The debate is tonight at what, 8 o'clock our time, John? Isn't it 8 o'clock?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what time it is.
Okay. Your idea of what's going to happen?
I think that it's going to be pretty uneventful, and I think everybody's going to see in it. I don't think there's going to be any fireworks.
Okay, the interesting thing about this is that sometimes I will call BS on various news organizations. I'm going to call BS on Fox News because they've got an article on there that talks about, here we go, this is the thing. The title is, Team Harris had planned on unmuted mics, left scrambling to rewrite debate strategy. Do you believe that? I mean, do you believe for a minute they're scrambling to rewrite debate strategy?
No, but I think they're probably just giving her some last-minute reminders about interruptions, and they're giving her some punchlines to say, you know, to correct Trump and put Trump in his place and be a sassy brat girl.
Well, you know what's going to happen is that, and the interesting part of this is, and once again, I'm not trying to say, you know, hey, that Trump guy, he's the smartest guy. Remember when this whole deal came out, when the promo, we have actually played it where Biden comes out and says, hey, what's he called? Hey, punk, you know, I'm going to debate you and we're going to meet. Remember that promo that came out? And everybody was amazed because of, they said, and the Democrats and the Biden team said, no, we're going to mute the mics. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And everybody goes like, Trump's not going to agree to that. And Trump says, yeah, that's fine. Right? You remember?
Yes, I do.
Everybody went like, what? Trump's going to agree to that? Okay, here we go again to the point where now Trump's already agreed to these debates, and I'm on Trump's side. Hey, he's saying like, hey, you know what? I agreed to these debates. The rules that we had the first debate, they're just fine. Let's just keep doing that. And the Harris people, oh, no. We can't unmute the mics. We can't mute the mics because you know why? They want him to interrupt her. They want him to
seem like a bore, B-O-O-R.
Right.
They want him to seem boorish.
They want him to be the butthead guy. Look at this old orange man. He's beating up on this young woman of color. Blah, blah, blah.
I know. You know what he should do is, if there's one line that he should work in against Kamala Harris, and it's a line I got from 93.7 KSD in 1985, he should say that Kamala Harris is pond scum.
No.
I learned that from 93.7. It was an influential station in my life as a young man. I don't know where most of those personalities are, Brad. I know John Hewlett has an affiliation with the Cardinals. Have you heard from J.C. Corcoran lately?
Well, and let me just finish the Harris thing. Okay. Here's what Trump should do. Okay. Of course he won't do this. He should channel Charlton Heston. And every time when it's Harris's turn, when she gives her 2 minutes, then they go, Mr. Trump, your reaction? He should just look at the camera or look over at Kamala and say, honey, you're right. And that's it. You don't like it?
I think a lot of blue pill, limp-wristed, pedestalizing men would agree, Brad.
Okay, John.
I think a lot of men that enjoy being step stools for strong women would agree.
John is aching for me to talk about the J.C. Corcoran thing. Okay.
I'm not aching. I think if you start an online fight, Brad, I think you should back it up, and I love it. Talk about it.
Now, I started the fight? I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, I think you started a fight. I just saw a Facebook exchange about it, Brad. You're going around instigating people. You asked if anybody's familiar with the sound of a fist flattening your face. That's what I heard.
That's not what I asked.
That's what I heard, Brad.
Okay. First off, I've said this before. You've heard me say this. I said JC is one of the hardest working guys in the radio business, always has been, okay? And our paths have crossed many times. And here's the interesting thing.
And who's J.C. Corcoran? For people under 50, who is J.C. Corcoran?
J.C. Corcoran is an interesting story. J.C. Corcoran came to St. Louis. A guy by the name of John Beck took over Casey when this company, this upstart company called Emmis Broadcasting out of Indianapolis, and Emmis was started by an attorney, and I think then it was sold to John's Jay Simoleon or whatever his name is. Jeff Simoleon, I think's his name. Okay, and it was an upstart company. And they bought Casey, which at the time, this is 1984, which was sort of tattered around the edges. Casey had been around since the 60s and did well in the 70s. But by the time the early 70s, early 80s came around, Casey wasn't doing so well. They were still down in a little block, concrete block building down there on Watson Road next to the old drive-in theater there, right across from where the Crestwood Plaza used to be. And once again, I met with John Beck in his little office, concrete block office, and they were retooling the station, okay? They hired this guy by the name of J.C. Corcoran, and what he did was, and this is interesting because a lot of people think he came up with this, he just ripped off what Scott Shannon was doing in New York called The Morning Zoo, okay? And there's an interesting documentary that's just come out about this. Scott Shannon got hired, and Scott Shannon, sort of a very influential DJ, worked at a bunch of big stations down at Tampa and things like that. But they hired Scott Shannon in New York to be at the worst station in New York City. The absolute positive last rated station. Keep in mind, there's like, if you look at the rating books in New York, there's like 60 stations. And this station he was at was like the last station. Within 6 months, they were number one because Scott Shannon came up with this thing called The Morning Zoo. Well, JC ripped it off. And essentially what The Morning Zoo is, you have a bunch of crazy people, and it's to the point where there's still a lot of morning shows like this. There's components. You have the woman who comes in and says this, that, and the other thing. You have a crazy dude. You have a news guy. You have somebody out in the street who's doing man on the street kind of stuff. That's the Morning Zoo. So they hired JC, and JC comes in, and he's really good. He's really funny, and he sets the market ablaze. And all of a sudden, Casey goes from not doing so well to kicking butt, and they're doing extremely well. And JC is the reason. People are tuning in to JC. People are talking about JC. He's a big time. He's like huge, and he's making more money than anybody in the St. Louis markets is making, okay? So, long story made short, the problem with JC is, and I will say this up front, I have a category that I've used in the radio business. I call them O's, O-W-E, own worst enemy. And 9 times out of 10, O's, people like JC, don't get fired for what they say on the air. It's the crazy crap that they do off the air. It's the crazy stuff that drives everybody in the office nuts. It's the crazy, weird stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, I can tell you stories about Steve and DC, people that work with Steve and DC. It wasn't what they did on the air, although there were some things they did on the air, but most of the time, it was the crazy, behind-the-scenes, bizarre, weird stuff that just happened, okay? So JC goes through all these different permutations. He gets fired from KC, and he has and of course, it's never his fault, and then he's complaining about this, complaining that. I was up at 93.7 KSD. He's really funny over there. But then once again, he gets in trouble with management. And then the worst part of it is the station's sold, and he ends up working for my ex-boss, Karen Carroll. And he hates the fact that he works for a woman to the point where he talks about his new boss on the air. He's got this sound effect that sounds like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And every time he talks about the boss, he plays the sound effect. Okay, you got to know Karen, and I know Karen. I don't know her extremely well, but I have tremendous respect for her. She ultimately became the general manager of KMOX, so she's got to be good to raise, to raise at that level. So, once again, he just didn't like her because of the fact that she was a woman. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, dude, guess what? You know what? Things are changing. Women are running things. It's not like the old days of the radio business when I first started, where it was men were on the air and men ran the station and men were all the salespeople. Times are changing, okay? So JC's had recently, let's say, bounced around a little bit. And for a while, he was at the station down that you can hear if you're down in South County, KBDZ, they're on 93.1, and it's a classic rock station. He was there, and then all of a sudden, one day, they let go of him. Then he moves over to K-Wolf, and he's on K-Wolf for a while, and things happen, and he's gone. He wasn't on K-Wolf for a while. He's gone. So he's on the Facebook all the time, and I don't hunt the guy out. You're not a Facebook guy, but sometimes when I open up my Facebook page, there's posts from people on there, and I read them, okay? So just last week, and back me up on this, remember I talked about the fact that he was venting on Facebook again. Just last week, I said, let's see if we can get JC on the air. Remember I said this?
Yeah, that's right. It would be a great moment. And real quick, indulge me here. As a kid growing up, as a baseball fan in the 80s, forever influenced by his anti-Mets rhetoric. So go ahead.
And
I'd love to hear his voice on our.
And once again, he did crazy stuff. He hired, if you know this whole story, he hired one of those planes pulling banners, and they flew it over Busch Stadium. The Mets are pond scum. Okay. Once again, people. Oh, it's J.C. Corcoran. And once again, he did a lot of stuff to galvanize, the St. Louis audience. Yeah, those Mets, we hate them. Okay. Once again. Rivalry's good in baseball. Rivalry's good in a lot of sports, okay? So he's venting on, and I say to John last week, matter of fact, I can even go back and I can pull up the text right now. I can tell you exactly what I sent to him last week. And, I'm trying to be a good guy. Now, keep in mind, about 6 or 7 years ago, there was a deal where they had an event at the Maristar, and this was the second. It was like the Keishi reunion. And the first one went over real well. The second one was gangbusters. I mean, they charged for it. And there was a line going out the door for people to come in to watch, this thing. And it was really, really well done. And I had JC on the air because he was helping promote it. And, once again, I called him up. Hey, Q, this is when I was still doing KSLQ, this station, but when I was still playing music in the mornings. And I said, hey, would you like to? Yeah, that's fine. So I had him on the air. He was a jerk to me on the air, okay? I'm giving him free publicity. He may think, oh, this is Brett. He's got some crappy little station he owns. I'm J.C. Corcoran. I don't even know why I'm on this damn station. There's probably 3 people in a cowl listening to the station right now. Okay, so I'm going like, okay, whatever. I've tried to be nice. You know me, John. I try to make nice with everybody in the radio business.
That's
because
true. You're right about that.
I say, as the tide rises, so do all boats. Let's stop carping at each other and instead go after the Facebook, budgets and the Instagram budgets and the YouTube budgets that people are spending their money. Let me bring up JC. Okay, this is last week. John and I said this on the air, and I texted him last week. I said, last Thursday, 8:50 a.m. I talked about you today. A listener texted me and said I should reach out to be a guest on my morning show. Any interest? And that did happen. Someone said, I heard you talking about JC. Why don't you get him on your show? And at 10 o'clock that morning, 10:09, he replies, thanks, but not at the moment. Some other things going on. And I said, sort of kidding, my feelings are hurt, exclamation point. He says, nah, just something unrelated to you. Gotta let something play out. Okay, fine. So
that's fair.
Yesterday, there's a post by a guy by the name of Jay Philpott. You know who Jay Philpott is?
No, I don't.
I believe he used to work at Casey a long time ago. He's somehow in the music business or in the radio business, something like that. And he's on his Facebook page. He's posting a link about a job opening at a radio station, a talk radio station. Okay, and what's interesting about it is he posts the thing and has the call letters of the station logo and the whole bit, and then he essentially puts up another post essentially saying, oh, he says it's a talk station, but he comes back and he says it's a conservative talk station, and here, let me see the exact thing on this. And JC pipes in and says, why does anyone even bother to specify, and he puts it in quotes, conservative talk anymore? Isn't that all talk radio? And I just respond, ever listen to NPR? Okay. Were those fighting words, John?
No, that was incredibly tepid. It was very tepid.
Right.
That was a tepid riposte, so to speak.
And I could easily said, ever listen to ESPN? Ever listen to? We don't have it in this market, but in some markets there are some very liberal conservative or liberal Latino talk stations down in Miami. There are Latino and conservative talk stations. So he replies, ever listen to the sound of a fist flattening your face? I'm going, and I didn't see this for a while. And I go back and I go, where did that come from? I mean, what did I say to tick him off? So I try to respond back nicely. JC, come on my morning show and we can discuss it. Or come by the studio and you can punch me live on the air. Okay? So was I being a jerk or what?
No, that was actually really funny. It just seems like, if I were watching this and I didn't know you guys, I would think that you guys were working each other. Like, this is a funny, like, back and forth. But according to you, this isn't like an inside joke. Like, this is actually JC. Like, this. I just think, actually, to give him credit, ever listen to the sound of a fist flattening your face is actually a really funny sentence.
But once again, it's to the point. Is like, okay, why would you say that to me? I mean, and nowadays, let's say the mayor of a city had put up something, and I replied, the mayor says, everyone, I don't think this should be discussed in our city council meetings. And I responded back to the mayor, ever hear the sound of someone's, of your face being flattened with my fist or whatever? Once again, I would probably be arrested for that. Get what I'm saying?
You would get a visit. You would get a wellness check.
I would get a police officer would show up at my door and say, we're not really wild about what you said to the mayor. We think you were inciting violence against an elected official. And chances are I may go for a ride in the back of an Explorer. You know what I'm saying?
I do know, yeah. So is this just an opportunity to let maybe the period of your life where you were friends and acquaintances with JC, maybe that period is just done, and maybe you just let it go, Brad.
The crazy thing is, I've never been his friend. I've never been an acquaintance. I think I've met him one time. Now.
Oh wow.
And go back to this. He worked with my brother, and there's an interesting story behind this. Are you really tight this morning? Can we go a minute?
No, we can go. Yeah, I don't have to get to school this morning.
Years ago, and I don't know if I told this story. You always laugh at all the stories I tell. A friend of mine who does all sorts of crazy video stuff and satellite uplinking, I ended up on the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol. Did I ever tell this? Did you know this?
Oh, yes. You've told it many times, but tell it again, because I don't remember the connection with J.C. Corcoran.
Okay, well, here's the connection to J.C. Corcoran, is that it was an interesting thing where a friend of mine who I know is in the business called me up, like probably in April and something, and say, hey, this summer there's going to be a day when I'm going to call you, and I'm going to call you the night before, and I need you to work for me from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. It's going to be a 12-hour day, and it's probably going to be somewhere within 100 to 150 miles of St. Louis. I said, fine. Tell me when. So, I think it was in June or something like that, I get the call from this guy. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, because maybe he wouldn't want to be part of this anymore. And he says, tomorrow morning, I need you at 6 o'clock in Hannibal, Missouri. Okay, fine. I was on the technical crew. I was the sound guy for the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol, where we went and gave away money, where the guys walked up to the front door with the balloons and the big check, and I was on that crew, okay? So my brother, who at the time worked with JC and was in the studio with him with Track Reporter and the whole bit, mentioned this to JC, and JC was fascinated by it. So JC calls me up and he says, hey, can I have you on the air tomorrow? I go, about what? He goes, I want you to tell the story about you being on the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol. So I go, okay, fine. I thought I'll be on the air with him. When he was still over at 93.7. So I'm on the air with him, I think, in 5 minutes. It turns into a half an hour. He's asking me what happened when this? And he's like, blow by blow. How many people are on the crew? What were the guys like? That one guy, the young guy, and the guy with the gray hair. What's he like? Did you talk with them? Yeah, we had lunch. Okay, the bizarre part of that is, for probably 10 years after that, I would run into people. People, hey, I heard you on JC Corcoran show yesterday.
Wow, which speaks to the reach of that station.
He was replaying the segment. He was
because he liked it so much.
Yes, it was like one of his best of segments or something like that.
I see. Okay.
So like I heard you. So in other words, I never had any problem with the guy. And once again, the thing that probably bothers me about it is that if you want my criticism of J.C. Corcoran, he paints the radio business in a bad light because of the fact that he comes off as this jerkazoid guy, and you don't know, there was this, and once again, there was this crazy story about him and John Carney getting into a fist fight down in Soulard. You know this whole crazy story?
No, I don't.
Oh, it happened 3 or 4 years ago. And supposedly the story is John Carney's said something on the air about him, and John Carney's doing some remote broadcast at a something in Soulard. I don't know what it was. And he comes out of the remote broadcast, and there's J.C. Corcoran waiting for him. And they have a little skirmish, and supposedly there were fists flying and stuff like that. And I think that JC was arrested, or I don't know what in the heck the deal was. I'm going like, you know what? Life's too damn short,
But at a certain point, doesn't he, let me play devil's advocate. Doesn't he, after all his years in radio, if he wants to move to Florida and be a jerk and start fights online, I mean, isn't that his right, Brett?
Sure, but once again, the situation for me, and I'm not trying to play the guy that's like, oh, he hurt my feelings. He said he was going to flatten my face. I'm a big boy. I've had worse. And matter of fact, I even put in my reply something about the fact that I have been punched by one of my employees, Karen. If you're out there listening, Karen, you know exactly who you are. Punched me in the face, okay? One of my employees punched me, and I didn't fire her. As crazy as that may sound, I probably should have arrested. But I'm a big boy. I can, once again, I'm not wrapped in cotton, I take my, on a daily basis sometimes. I get beat up verbally, sometimes even physically.
Mostly by me, though, from 7 to 8 a.m.
Mostly by John. Once again, I just don't get it, and to the point where here, I'm trying to give him free publicity on this radio station. And, we have a lot of people that listen to this crazy show, and we have a lot of people that don't necessarily listen live, but it's amazing to me your impact with all the elected officials and things like that contact me off the air, and people contact you, and things I say and things you say and stuff like that. Are we a big time, like a 97.1 kind of station? No, we're not that. But we're like a niche kind of place, Yeah.
So maybe we just let the JC thing go. I mean, if he doesn't want to be a part of, if he doesn't want to come out to the studio and flatten your face, I guess that's his choice, right, Brett? And do you know anybody in Florida that could have him pulled over? Because I hear those create viral moments.
I just don't. Once again, John, I just don't understand. I just don't understand the whole crazy thing. It doesn't.
I think your attitude is pond scum, Brad. That's what I think.
John,
I think you're a form of algae. We'll call it pond scum.
I appreciate that. Okay, we got to get out of here because it's time for. I got to do this. I got to hit this right here, and we should have Armstrong and Getty in progress. We went way long in this show.
See you guys tomorrow.
Here we go.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?